to Talk Flicks with just chicks, and today we're going to be talking about the Curse of La Llorona. Ooh.
Stay in the car, okay? And please don't wake up your sister.
Oh my god.
It's your fault! I tried to stop her! Who did you try to stop?
La Llorona.
The Curse of La Llorona.
So, this film was produced by James Wan, who is one of my favorites. But recently, he's been kind of doing some stuff I haven't really been that pleased with.
What else were you not pleased with?
The Nun.
Okay.
Yeah, this one kind of fell right in line with that, which we'll get into that later. But this was directed by Michael Chavez and written by Mickey Daugherty and Tobias Ikonis. And so when I saw the trailer, you sent me the trailer for this, and I was like, oh snap. I was very excited about this. The trailer was
very well done.
Really, really well done. Very creepy. The tale of La Llorona was something that, as I was studying Spanish, I had learned about. Really, it's a kind of like a wives' tale that they tell their kids when they're acting up. Like, you act up, La Llorona's going to come and take you away. And so, children would kind of straighten up and, act right, I guess, sometimes because they were scared. But I thought with this movie, it would kind of have that type of a setup with some, maybe some out of control kids, and then that kind of spurs La Llorona coming out. But it didn't really go there. And actually, I didn't understand why specifically she chose these children. Like, the movie never really went into, like, the first children who died.
Oh, the first one. Okay, yeah.
It was just like, they just already had the curse on them. And it's like, but y'all didn't explain why the curse was on them. And, we talked about it last night. Their exposition as to who La Llorona was, it is accurate. I was looking it up again. It is accurate, but I felt like the way they did it on screen didn't really resonate with me at all.
It was very lackluster. There was nothing scary at all about it at all. I mean, even the ghost part of her was not really scary.
No, it actually reminded me. There was and they were trying to link it to the Conjuring universe.
Yeah, and that felt very
forced. And I remember seeing something in one of the other ones that looked kind of like La Llorona. It was like a woman with a, yeah. And I think the Nun was like it reminded me of the Nun. That's why I was kind of like a little bit just like, okay, are y'all trying to do the Nun over again? Because, like, with the Nun, she had the little thing over her face and stuff. So La Llorona looks very, very similar to
and that's another thing that makes sense to me. Like, costume wise, does that have anything to do with the lore of the story? Because she was in this wedding dress, or what appeared to be a wedding dress anyways, or is that more traditional Mexican attire?
It does kind of have something to do with the story, but I think they kind of exaggerated that just for the actual look of it in this particular film. And so, yeah, the whole exposition just needed to be more, I feel like, flushed out. And, I mean...
you know what it kind of reminded me of as far as, like, the way everything played out, the way it was put together, was like a Goosebumps after school special. Especially at the end when I told you about, like, those cuts where it seemed like it was getting ready to go to a commercial.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this could have been like a made for TV movie and not a theatrical release.
It really, really could have. And
Especially some of that acting was like
yes, I was
Lifetime
just about to say
acting.
some of that acting really just kind of made you think that. But yeah, I really just think they could have tried to find ways to make it more scary. You know what I mean? Because it was just like, okay, and just the reason why she killed her kids to me could have been maybe embellished or changed just a little bit, just to make it more.
You know what? I didn't mind
creepy.
it, but I felt like it wasn't really like, well, you were saying like fleshed out a little bit more. You just saw very brief glimpses of her doing that. They could have even showed a scene where the guy that spurned her saw her, drowning the last kid. I mean, it just seemed like it was, I don't know, just
I
very
would have
light.
liked it to be something where, like I said, they would have had to go in and kind of change the story around a little bit. But maybe even where the husband killed her because she had killed his kids, and then or something. I don't know, just something a little bit more.
I mean,
sinister,
it could have even
and I just
went
feel
into
like,
another really powerful topic that we have going on right now that's not really addressed a lot in films and media: postpartum depression.
yes,
That would have been a very
Yes.
interesting angle.
Yes.
And then she could have attached herself to other mothers that are either not necessarily have to have postpartum, but maybe just being sad and depressed, like how the mom had just lost a husband. And that could have been
that
her
could have been why
connection on how she was able to attach herself to them.
Right. Yes. It, like I said, it just, that story needed a lot more work, and the fact that it was two writers and they couldn't get that together kind of made me a little disappointed. Like, bro, did nobody look at this and say, hey, how can we make this more, you know what I mean? Like, I know you want to stick to the traditional story, but
I think that they could have, but I think
you need to embellish some things, make it a little bit more, dramatic.
I think they could have showed more of it. And then I think it would have, like, they didn't show, like, how are you supposed to get invested into these characters if you only see so much, this little bit of it?
Glimpse.
Like, that whole scene at the beginning was, like, what, a minute tops? If that, like, if they could have showed like her and this guy falling in love and showing her, in childbirth, having these kids, the pain that she went through. So of course the pain she would feel when you see her seeing him with this other woman, you see her stressed out. Like, when you think about Gone Girl, like Gone Girl is a really good example of showing a woman who is out for revenge against a man that's hurt her.
And maybe it was something where the kids looked like him, so it reminded her of him, and so that's what spurred, okay, I'm about to kill these kids. Like, it just was like, if you don't establish that, I don't feel like this woman would kill her kids. Like, it has to be more than my husband cheated on me. Like, the kids have to do something too, like remind her of him, or they acting up, or something just needed to be more connected to that aspect.
I feel like they sacrificed a lot of that time that could have been used for that for the third act, for all of that. And a lot of that stuff could have been either taken out or just condensed all the way.
Yeah, the whole social worker stuff. I mean, it
not the social. I'm talking about the third act where La Llorona showed up at their house and they were trying to
save that.
No, what I'm saying is I feel like
came sooner.
They could have took some of that out. Like, that was a really long, drawn out ending. And I feel like they could have made that a little bit more concise to leave more room to tell, or more time to tell La Llorona's story properly.
Yes. I feel like the main characters really, they I don't know, that like, we talked about this last night. I really wasn't vibing with their family dynamic because they put a lot of emphasis on the dad who was a cop that died, but then you never saw him. You never saw any flashbacks. So it just was no connection.
I felt like it was just, the only reason that was stuck in there was so that they could give the mom access to these case files and to show up at the crime scene
but
when
she was
the boys
a
were
caseworker, so she would have access to the
you wouldn't have access to police files.
Oh, you talking about like
how remember how she was laying on the bed and she had actual like case file and actual pictures. The fact that she even, because a lot of times, I mean, I was a caseworker myself, you didn't show up on the scene if one of the kids died on your caseloads. Like, you were notified, but you were, I mean, maybe it was a little bit differently in the 70s. I can't say for sure, but I can speak for now. You're not showing up necessarily at the crime scene after the fact. And so I feel like that was just kind of thrown in there for convenience to be able to say, well, yeah, that's why she was there. That's why she had the case files, you know. And instead of using that to create more of an emotional impact for not only the character but for those kids, because we talked about a good scenario could have been those kids could have been the ones that were acting out because they just lost their father, and that's why she came and attached herself to the family. Like there were a lot of ways they could have kept the dead cop husband, but he wasn't used for anything
except for that little toy that girl had to mess up the
oh,
protection to get.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and we talked about it. If you have been through all of that and these people have told you don't mess with this, protective lining, I just feel like you've been traumatized to the point where somebody tell you that she can come through and get you
because she almost died. She was almost drowned in the tub.
Almost drowned. She got through against wall. I mean, this girl had been through some stuff. And so to me, I'm like,
because she was the younger of the two,
right?
Seemed like she was maybe the weaker of the two emotionally because of the scene with the doll. I would have more expected that character to be cowering in a corner somewhere versus peeking out of a window where you just exiled a ghost and reaching out to get this doll.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe if she didn't know that dust was protecting the door or something, where she's like, oh, my doll fell out there.
Yeah, but that would go against the priest character because he was very blunt and very outspoken about what needed to be done to get rid of her. They were leaving those kids by themselves
a lot, so maybe she didn't hear that part of the conversation. That was another thing that kind of wore me the wrong way. All of this is happening. Is this dead woman trying to come get your kids. And then just, maybe hours later, they did a little fade in and fade out. You're just leaving them by themselves upstairs. No, you're not doing that. To me, that was super unrealistic. Well,
I think they were trying to do exactly what they saw Patricia do when she locked them in that closet because she didn't want her to get them. But you are going to
be close by the closet, I feel. Just like how she slept with them in that room that night where they all saw her. She stayed up the whole time, to make sure that she didn't come back. You would do the same thing, even more, because you have had the ultimate experience where she has laid her hands on you, has marked you, has thrown you up against walls. You are not going to let that go down. I feel like, to me, logically, that was just kind of not believable. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I did not like and that was extra was Pastor or Priest Perez, the priest from the other Conjuring universe movies. He was a waste of a character. I feel like his whole purpose was just to try to connect this one to all the other movies that have spawned from The Conjuring, so Annabelle and The Nun and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, it looks just like The Nun, so I feel like we're gonna get that anyway. You have the same producer in James Wan, so I feel like you didn't have to be like, guess what? This is part of the Conjuring universe.
Well, like I said, I think
you flash back for that, but you didn't flash back to establish the dad who had died, who apparently was an important part of this family. So I'm just like, nah.
I think it could have worked if he had have been more of a useful character. Yeah. And you would have gotten a little bit more time with him. Absolutely. And saw more of a connection between him and the mom. Mm-hmm. I think it wouldn't have been such a big deal. But because he was so briefly in the movie and really just for that purpose, it really was forced.
Because she had already seen the other priest. His name was Father Alvaro. What's his name? Yeah. Father Raphael, sorry. She had already seen him, so for the other priest Perez to introduce her or tell her about him was like, okay, she's already seen him. She saw him doing the little curandero stuff. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't she just go and talk to him? She didn't need to have that conversation with the other priest in order to, find her way to him. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, it was like he could have been more useful. He didn't even help them at all, like other than say, oh, there's this guy over here. I can't help you because I'm, more Orthodox Catholic or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that kind of rubbed me wrong. I'm like, y'all being so extra. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't really. There's other ways they could have tied it in. It just would have actually flowed with the actual narrative, I feel.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The narrative of this whole movie never really flowed.
I feel it was a. I feel like maybe if it had have been the things that we talked about added to it, and then.
Well, I'm just talking about as is.
Yeah,
as is.
As
it
is.
Didn't
It
have
flow.
a very good narrative flow,
and
along with that acting and some of that choppy editing, it didn't work. This movie does not work.
I feel like the casting was a bit off too. Like the guy who played Father Raphael, he was just a little bit, or maybe it just was the acting and stuff like that. But his character, like for example, when they first go to talk to him, and he's like, "No, I'm not helping you," and then the little girl's like, "Please, please," like he didn't seem like a soft enough person.
Well, I think they were kind of expecting you to see him as one of those people that are tough on the outside but really soft on the inside. That's the way I took it, because I mean he was doing little jokes here and there and stuff like that. So I think that was supposed to be essentially his character, no matter who was playing him. That was the way he was written.
I understand that, but I feel like maybe something where we saw him with kid. Well, no, then people were like, "Oh, he's a pedophile" or something. I don't know. But anyways,
yeah,
I don't know. But I don't know. To me, maybe it was the acting. Maybe it was just the acting.
I think
in
it
that
was
scene.
just the acting.
I was like,
and the writing too. I think the writing
believable.
was just not believable enough. For you for it to really sell itself to you, well, to anybody. I don't think, because a lot of people in our screening were laughing at stuff that was not funny.
We were laughing at stuff that was not supposed to be funny as well. So yeah, so those things, I feel like the detective, the black guy, he was a wasted character as well. We talked about that last night. I just felt like all of these characters, like they didn't, not all of them, but a lot of these kind of like side and supporting characters didn't really help move the narrative or move the the protagonist.
They didn't even help you to invest in the main characters either.
Yeah, it was just every character, and honestly at the end especially, she was leaving them kids by themselves. She was just making bad decisions. I was like, honestly, like Llorona can come get all of them. All of them. I was rooting for her at that point. And so when I feel like that, I feel like you have not done enough to develop these characters to where the audience will be able to empathize and want to root for them. Because, I mean, then when that little girl was trying to get that dog, I was like, I hope she gets snatched too, because you should don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that those things where the kids are doing something they're supposed to, that is what really I feel would have helped me like this movie a lot more, because like I said, that was the whole point of moms telling their kids about like Llorona is to get them in line. And so, for example,
and they even stated that in the movie, right? And that was another thing that was confusing. Like, okay, if that was her purpose, why is she doing something totally different? Like, it's not, because I mean, yes, folk tales are usually based in some form of truth. They're not always all the way true, but the way she was operating in comparison to the story that they were telling us about how she should operate were so different.
And like you said, she had already snatched some kids, so explain why she keeps snatching them. If she already has some kids.
Because they were saying, okay, she's doing this to replace her own. So, but I'm saying, but she keeps snatching kids. Like, what was it really going to take? Right, and that's what I thought the movie was going to eventually get to, is what is it going to take to satisfy her to where she's at peace? Right. And then she wasn't. I mean, it wasn't even resolved, really.
Whatever that medallion was made her at peace, because her face turned back.
But it was the same medallion they had took off her. So she already had it and was off the chain. So that didn't make sense to me either.
Yeah, that's true. And then everybody,
because they were like, yeah, maybe we could use it against her somehow. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's going to be like, oh, something that'll ward her off, or something that you can mix with something else and it'll make her, go peacefully.
And what was it? Was that something that her husband had given her? Like,
I remember seeing it at the beginning, in that beginning sequence, and she was saying something about she would never take it off. I think one of her kids gave it to her. But I mean, it didn't make
Okay.
it. Still did, like I said, even in that context, it doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
it
It
doesn't
just,
work.
I don't know where they were going with that. It just was so
And
confusing.
why did it turn her back into the regular
And
Llorona?
that was another part. They was like, yeah, she was the most
Most
beautiful of
beautiful.
all.
It's
And
like,
nothing against this
she's
actress
yeah,
because I saw pictures of her
she's
and she
okay.
is beautiful.
She is,
But it did
the way
not
they
line
had
up
her,
with the
the way
story
they
they were
did her
telling.
in this part, everyone was laughing. I'm not even kidding. We were in there like, hold on, I thought y'all said she was the most pretty. Like, and I think that's why people were laughing. Like, what? So yeah, I was disappointed. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, wow, this was not. And they put all the best parts in the trailer.
They definitely
So
did.
we got bamboozled.
There was nothing more to offer, really.
It really wasn't. It was something else that I was gonna say. We talked about it last night. I did like the eggs. You know, the curandero where he's wiping everything down with eggs, and they're like, "Is that all you came here to do? Is just bring out these eggs?" And then, he cracks them and they explode into like this black substance. And also, that's another thing. Maybe he was doing this because remember he was collecting her tears or something to make hope.
Yeah, but he used it against her. Remember, he
First of
sanctified.
all,
He collected it from the old crime scene.
From the old
then
crime
he
scene, okay.
sanctified them, and then he threw them on her. And then I think he even threw some in the pool when he was trying to.
Right, he turned it into a baptism pool basically.
Right,
But I think maybe even making it to where he wanted, because remember he said he had never seen La Llorona for real, and maybe making that the real reason why he even helped.
that he was like a storm chaser.
Yeah, I think I would have believed that more than him just like, I mean, and then as he was spending time with them, he says, oh, okay, yes, I like this family, I want to help them. But initially, it needed to be something more self-serving, I feel, or something.
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't believing him, just like, oh, these people I just met, I'm going to go and help them. And, he already knows, like, Llorona is deadly. So it's like, would you really go that far for these people?
Another question I had is, what was the purpose of marking the moms? Was she gonna come back and get them later? Because she had already marked the kids, which attached her to them. Why does she need to attach herself to the moms?
I don't know, girl. It might have been she just you know how kids there's like a maternal connection. So maybe she was trying to steal her maternal connection so she could have her kids all the way.
Maybe.
I'm making up stuff, but I don't know. And why she wouldn't just take the kids when she got a hold of them? Like, it was just a whole bunch of goofing around. Like, I'm gonna throw you against the wall. I'm about to, like if you are out for this woman's kid, then when you get
really, she could have got the son the very first night.
And maybe she missed or yeah. But there were so many opportunities where she was just kind of, to me, not being serious about what her job. And they should have showed a scene of the mom from the case that she was working, the mom whose kids actually, Patricia, making that deal with La Llorona, like, hey, or her praying like, La Llorona, like, give me my kids back.
You know why? Kids. Because that was supposed to be like the big twist, and it fell so flat on his face.
It was.
It was just like, it was.
Because I already knew that happened because of that shot that they did when she was leaving. They put her in the back of the cop car and was taking off, and she looked at that boy.
I mean, and even the cop friend was like, yeah, she mad at you. You need to go talk to her.
Right.
So I felt like they were already setting that up. Anyways, like if it's gonna be a twist, like you could have acted like she was still cool or whatever, leaning on her for support, and then she shows up like, yeah, I prayed for her to take your kids.
Or she could have been like, I am La Llorona. I let her possess me, and now I'm about to get. I don't know, just something that was a little bit more like, oh wow, and
a little bit more inventive. Like I said, this was very after school special-esque.
It was goosebumps. I ain't even gonna front. Nobody really was scared like that except for our server who ran out the theater when something happened.
It was like the very first jump
It was
scare.
like what? It was like a blur that went past our eye, or past my eye. You might have saw me.
I saw it.
Yeah, but she was like gone, and
The
so
best part of
that
the
was
movie,
probably
guys.
the best part of the movie. But overall, what would you rate this one?
I'm gonna give this one a D minus.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed. Like I said, James Wan, he has just been.
Well, he only produced it. He didn't direct it.
He did produce it. I think he only.
And
produced,
I mean,
but
if this is all a part of the Conjuring universe, then of course he's gonna have a producer credit. That doesn't mean that he had really anything to do with it at all.
True.
So I don't feel like you could put that on his shoulders.
That's true. You're right. And this
the blame squarely belongs on the director and the writers.
Give me 1 second here. He has done The Maiden and maybe like 2 other movies. So, and I could tell like this was kind of like a director kind of like at the beginning of their career. Because again,
you know what this kind of reminds me of?
These people.
It reminds me of those independent movies that we used to watch all the time in college. Like either the ones we get from Big Lots or the one from the video store.
Spectrum.
Yes.
This was
didn't have any business being in the theater at all.
Independent film. They got somebody's name, James Wan's name, attached to it, so then it got the marketing that it needed. Because there's other movies of La Llorona that I've seen, and they were like not good as far as like the story and stuff either. But I was thinking this one would be, so like I said, I was kind of disappointed. As far as a rating, man, yeah, it's probably about a D minus, maybe even a F plus.
The only reason I'm not giving it an F is because I appreciated the fact that it was a mostly Hispanic cast. And the fact that they were speaking Spanish without subtitles. I'm so excited that we are getting so much of that now.
That's true too. And I ordered a tres leches cake while I was at the theater just for this movie.
Yeah, so it gets a D minus for me and not an F because it had a lot of putting a lot of Hispanic culture on the front line, exposing it to a lot of people who may not ever get the chance to even know about La Llorona, to know about the eggs, to hear them just speaking Spanish like that, to see that many Hispanic people in a cast in a major motion picture all together. So you get points for that from me because I'm excited anytime we can get that much diversity into a major motion picture. Because a lot of people were talking about this. Matter of fact, our first screening that we were trying to go to was sold out. We had to go to a few cities over to even see this movie. So a lot of people were excited about this movie. Unfortunately, it did not live up to the high expectation that the trailers created. But I'm glad that people are going out to see it. And I hope, even though I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, I do hope a lot of people go out and see it, because if people don't, then they use these types of things as an excuse not to diversify.
Yeah.
So buy a ticket. You ain't got to go, but buy a ticket, support the cause.
No,
or you know what?
Go and see it.
You know what you should do? You should buy a ticket and go take a nap, because I was in here. Almost sleep. Girl. I barely made it home. That's how sleepy that movie made me. I barely made it home.
Okay, so the things that I liked, which I guess I need to just say so I can get my grade the right grade. So, like you said, I liked that it was a diverse cast. I liked the scenes like in the car where she's opening up the window and the door and stuff. I did like the bath scene. Mm-hmm.
You like the trailer, right?
Yeah, I like the trailer now. I like the curandero part. I think it was just a good like cultural thing to kind of include in there, because that's something that's really big in Mexican culture. Mm-hmm. And the smudging too, because that is it's not just big in Mexican culture. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of my African American friends are really starting to get into that as well, and so it highlights a big part of other people's culture too that will they'll identify with as well. So I guess I will give this movie which is basically The Nun.
Well, see, I didn't see The Nun. So.
No, she looked just like that. I was like, dang, it was somebody in there that looked just like that. Because she had that veil thing over her face. And then her eyes was the same, too. Like, I think her eyes were bleeding or something to that effect as well. I kind of remember that from
So
it was like, okay, so we're doing the Spanish version of The Nun. But,
I'm just talking about this movie making me sleepy.
I'll give it a D. I'm going to give it a D. I'm not going to give it a D minus. I'm going to give it a D. Could have been better, but it wasn't. So, but that's it.
I feel like this movie was like a step above that Truth or Dare movie we saw last year. Probably around this time too, April, right? I think. I feel like
honestly,
it was like a step
I felt like
above
I enjoyed
that
Truth or Dare better because that face
really
they were making. And that's another thing.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. And Truth or Dare, just everybody died, right?
Any. Yeah, well, yeah, because she did that thing where she went online and everybody ended up being caught up in it. But it only died, it was 2 kids that died. You didn't even see how they died, really. I mean, she drowned them, I guess, but you didn't, I mean, it was just basic to me as far as, like, this wasn't really even a horror, it's like a thriller or something.
Like I said, this was really good children's horror. It wasn't really what I would call adult or and I haven't seen a movie in a long time that's really just made me feel like panicky.
Oh. Yeah. So,
and I mean, that's what I thought. I thought from the trailer that I was really gonna walk out of the theater completely creeped out, and I did not. So I was pretty disappointed.
But alright, that's our review. So definitely leave us a comment. Watch it, tell us what you guys think. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can continue to get notifications about our videos and our reviews. Alright, peace.